It's common in our church vernacular, Christian vernacular, to talk about having that mountaintop experience. I think that comes from really from the event of the Transfiguration that Peter, James, and John had that mountaintop experience. But when we use that line, having that mountaintop experience means that you go to some event, some spiritual life retreat or church service, whatever it may be, and you just filled with that joy, that excitement, that closeness to God. A lot of times that mountaintop experience means that your life your faith is alive. You feel very, very close to God. You feel very, very committed, and through that mountaintop experience, there's that willingness to change, to better your life, to spend more time in prayer, devotion, to be more committed to your church, to be active in your faith, as we use those terms, that mountaintop experience. And the thing is, mountaintop experience is not something uniquely for Christians. There's examples of that in our culture and outside of our church. A good example, at least from the media, the movie Jerry Maguire had a mountaintop experience for the movie way back now. In that movie, Jerry Maguire was a sports agent, and one night he had this vision, this epiphany, if you will, that he needs to change that business of being a sports agent, to be more caring for their players. Yes, they're there to give them good contracts and the good money, but there has to be that personal touch. You feel like there was missing in the corporate world, that it's always about using them as products. And he says, let's get that personal touch. Anyway, he had that mountaintop experience, and it changed everything. He writes that huge memo and gives it to everyone, and to say, we need to change our industry. And I think that outside the world, people can describe moments in their lives where they have that mountaintop experience, whether it's a 50 minutes, a book they read, or a movie they watched, or maybe some music, something inspired them. Maybe it was a speech that inspired them to change their lives, inspired them to do better for themselves. But the thing about mountaintop experience, whether it's in the church or outside the church, the problem with a mountaintop experience is that you have to do what? Come off that mountain. You can't always stay in that moment of excitement and joy and motivation for change, that eventually you have to go down off that mountain. And what happens after a mountaintop experience, as you go back to reality, it's hard to stay motivated. Well, in fact, Jerry Maguire, again, a mountaintop experience, he was going to change the industry of sports agents, and what happens? He loses his job. And he's only left with one client. And now reality sets in. Can I live this way? Can I really make that change? And for a Christian, a lot of times that happens. We have these mountaintop experiences. We go to this great retreat, youth retreat, or a great worship, or a great sermon, or whatever event it was, and we have this glorious event, and then we go back to our homes, and that experience fades away, and we quickly go back to our old habits. See, that's the thing with Peter, James, and John. They too had literally, with the sense, a mountaintop experience with Jesus. They had the first one for all Christians, that mountaintop experience. The context of this transfiguration, this is at the end of Jesus' ministry. For 3 years, he's been traveling up and down from Galilee to Jerusalem, all along the Jordan River, preaching his message of the kingdom of heaven, of mercy and forgiveness, of healing people, and his miracles, and his power that he's been demonstrating to people wherever he goes. And again, that preaching with authority, preaching with meaning and purpose, as the thousands of people will flock to him wherever he went. And what's going on is that they're on their last journey to Jerusalem. It's time for them to prepare for the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the Passover, to celebrate the Passover in Jerusalem. And right before they go to Jerusalem, he pauses and takes them up to this mountain. But it's interesting to note, he only takes a few of his disciples. He doesn't take all 12 of them. He just takes Peter and James and John. And they go up to this mountain, and when they're from anyone's eyesight, Jesus instantly begins to change before them. That's that transfiguration. And he changes in the sense of his face becomes this brilliant glow, and his glow turns into a shining brightness. Everything is different about Jesus. And I think even more powerful yet, as Matthew records there, is that in standing next to him are the prophets Elijah and Moses. And they're conversing with Jesus. They're fellowshipping with Jesus. And that's a beautiful, glorious moment in which Jesus is revealing to his disciples, at least as Peter, James, and John, that I am the Son of God. I am He. Showing his glory in a physical way, that he is truly, literally, the light of the world, as John records. Jesus has come to be the light of the world, and here's his light shining from him. And in the midst of that light, we have that gift of life, of eternal life, resurrected life, what you see in Elijah and Moses. And because of the experience and filled with euphoria, Peter right away says, Jesus, it is good that we are here. Let's stay here. We'll build tents. We'll live here for the rest of our lives. This is where we want to be. And then they hear the cloud envelops them. They hear the voice of God, just like the same voice was heard spoken 3 years ago when Jesus was baptized. And God declared once again and telling his disciples, this is my Son who I love. And with him I will please. There's anything better than that. Of Jesus' glory shining. But let Jesus tell Peter, James, and John, we can't stay here. And all of a sudden, everything went back to normal. Jesus was just simply Jesus. Elijah and Moses weren't there. Because they had to go back off that mountain, go back to the rest of the disciples, and continue their journey onto Jerusalem. And he tells, though, Peter, James, and John, he tells them what? Did you catch that at the end? He tells them, don't say anything of what you saw. Until when? Until you see my resurrection. He didn't want anyone to know. This is the reason I think Jesus only brought a few of his disciples up to the mountain. He wanted to reassure some of them. And I think mainly Peter, I think Peter had been loosely been kind of the de facto leader of the disciples. He's most outspoken of the disciples at least. He's more kind of the A-type personality of the disciples. And along with James and John, who kind of had that kind of leadership qualities, they kind of led the group. I think he brought them because he knew that what was about to happen. He needed those guys to reassure the rest that don't worry, this is going to work out. Because the reason why, and I shared this with the kids, but the reason why Jesus came into this world, why the Son of God came into the flesh in this world, was not just to be transfigured and show the world of his glory. He could have done that years ago. He could have done that when he was first baptized. He could have been transformed and let everyone, including the Pharisees who were there, to see that he truly is the Son of God. But his transfiguration is not what's going to save us. to redeem us. Jesus needed to keep going to Jerusalem because of what's going to happen to him when he gets to Jerusalem. Because there, he'd be arrested. There he would be beaten. And there he would finally be nailed to the cross. And there he will die and he will be buried. But it's at the cross is where he's going to save this world. It's at the cross where he saves all of us. And then 3 days later, that glorious victory, where he would rise back to life to tell everyone, I have done it. I have paid the price of our sins, humanity's sins, and I've given the world victory over life, or over death. That, the cross, the grave, the empty tomb, that is the true glory of Jesus. And so as we go into Lent this week, as we begin on Wednesday with our Ash Wednesday service, and for the next several weeks, 40 days of Lent, in about 6 weeks, will take us on this journey, another journey we need to take every year to be recommitted to our faith, to be renewed in our faith in Jesus. And once again, to believe in the truth that it is Jesus who is Lord, is Jesus who is God, but far more importantly, that it is in Jesus that we find salvation, because it is in Jesus who sacrificed his life on the cross. And it is Jesus, and only Jesus, who is raised again from the dead. Why this is so important, especially in Lent, is that if we are looking for a real change in our lives, and I think all of us are, I know a lot of people outside this church are looking for a change. Everyone is looking for a change. All of us have struggles. All of us have choices we have made, and we're not good choices. And we still are being beaten up by them today. The real change in each of our lives is not coming from a mountaintop experience. Those things are like it's like a match. You know, you light it, it burns quick, it burns hot, but like a match, it goes out so quickly. You're left cold again. What we really need, and what Jesus came to give us, that we need the cross of Jesus. We need the empty tomb. That's what keeps us going day in and day out. It's what keeps us walking and following Jesus. It's not seeing his beautiful glory on the mountain, but to see God who loved us so much, he gave up his life on the cross for us. That's what changes us. And that's what renews us. It's what builds up this kingdom. It's what builds up this church. That we see glory of God, of his sacrifice for all of us, for all of humanity. And then we can celebrate, though. That we can find joy and excitement and hope that he did not remain dead, but that he has risen from the dead. And so the next 6 weeks, let's begin that journey once again. And through the course of these next 6 weeks, let's recommit ourselves. Let's be renewed in the Spirit. Let's be made live again in the Spirit of God. That our hope is in Jesus, who did die and rise again. Amen.